I hate to break the fishing news up, Yaremchuk, but I'd like to speak about the ice hockey.
Congratulations, you're one of the 13 listeners of the Real Life Podcast.
We just traded a migraine in for like an orgasm.
Might want to mark that down, Yaremchuk.
Yep. All of my projects are on schedule until they're not.
A member of the Nation Network of Podcasts.
About as funny as we're going to get today.
Episode 198, Real Life Podcast. I'm Tyler Yaremchuk, joined by Jay at the Squire and Bagged Milk. Just the three of us for now, for about 10 minutes. No Chalmers, no Wanye this week, but we will be joined in short time by the voice of the Edmonton Oilers, Jack Michaels. Going to join the pod live, going to chat with him for a little bit about how things are going down at the rink, chat a little bit about his career as well. Before we get into that, I should let you know that today's podcast, as always, brought to you by the fine folks over at Japa Machinery. All your heavy equipment needs, Japa has you covered. Check them out, Twitter, Instagram. Check out their website as well. That's probably the most important one, japamachinery.com. Bagged Milk, Jay, guys, gonna chat with Jack in about 10 minutes here. I'm excited for this. He's a guy who, like this past year with the Smith-Talbot fight, and, you know, he had like the Archibald game winner. All his game winner calls started to get a lot of hype online. He is the voice of the Oilers, and I think like a lot of the fan base is proud of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because this is a guy that came in and was forced to follow a legend.
Yeah.
So I think for a lot of Oilers fans, it kind of, you think it almost took a minute for some people to warm up to Jack? Because to me, listening to his calls I was prepping for today's interview, going back through a bunch of his calls, like you said, game winners, big saves, fights, he puts everything into it. And I love the way he calls hockey games.
Yeah, and that's what I was kind of getting at,
no shortage
too.
of energy.
Like, when he took over from Rod, I think naturally there was a little bit of like, oh, our legends being replaced with, and I mean, this wasn't me saying it, but there are people, oh, our legends being replaced by an American. Come on. But I mean, one, he's got a hell of a call. Two, if you listen to him, he clearly cares a lot about this hockey team and the fans. And I think over the past few years, he's really sort of endeared himself as the team started winning as well, which certainly helps. He's really started to endear himself to the fan base, right, Jay?
Oh, yeah, of course. And he's done such a good job capturing some crazy moments, especially this season, which has been a nuts one to begin with. But no, he's earned his stripes. You're right. Anytime there's transition and you're taking over and filling the shoes of a Hockey Hall of Famer broadcaster, you know, that there's always going to be a bit of a transition. But like, he's jumped in, he's made it his own, and that guy brings the energy. Like, I feel, you know, like he just, like, I feel the saliva coming out of my speakers and hitting me in the face, in the sense of like how, like, when he goes insane on some calls and he's just like out of breath, and like, oh, I just feel that like oozing out of the speaker when I'm listening to the radio. So he's done a great job. He like I said, he's done it his own way, and he's his own brand and sound, and I love it.
And this is a guy too. He got his at-bats in before jumping up to the NHL as well. He did 919 games in the minors before making the jump to the Oilers. So this guy has seen a lot of hockey in his day. And it's kind of one of those, he's kind of, you know, proof of concept. He's one of those 10,000 hours guys.
Yeah, he's, like I said, like, I can't imagine the pay for being the play-by-play guy for an East Coast Hockey League team is that lucrative. So he obviously had a mission and a goal, and that was to get to the NHL. And he just, you know, he's one of those good stories where he just rode the bus, probably literally, for a long time, getting those reps in, and then he got the call to make it to the show, and he has grabbed the ball and he has run with it for sure. So he ain't going anywhere.
We need to ask him about that when he comes on, because like Jay said, I can't imagine play-by-play in the ECHL is nobody's getting rich doing that. Like, did he have to go down and sweep up the stands just to like keep this dream alive? Or I'd love to know how he went from game one in the ECHL, almost 1,000 more, and then finally getting the call up to the bigs.
Well,
and that's a hell of a jump too, though. Like, you're going from East Coast to NHL. Like, there was no AHL time. How did he not get discovered sooner if he was that so much of a talent? Maybe it's because just geographically being in the Alaskan market and not getting too much attention, and we just kind of got lucky when our opening came up. But yeah, I would love to know more about that.
Well, the interesting part is, like, you read through his job descriptions when he was with Colorado in the West Coast League. Broadcaster, but then he was also director of communications, director of marketing as well. So, and then even when he went up to the ECHL, his title on his website says vice president and alternate governor, Alaska Aces, and he does all this stuff. And it's almost like the play-by-play part was like, okay, and you can also do that if you do like these 10 other jobs for us, which I find fascinating as well, because then you get the call to the NHL and your only focus all of a sudden is being the play-by-play guy. So yeah, there's a ton of really interesting things to get to with Jack. You mentioned the 10,000 hours thing. Well, if you take 919 games in the minor leagues and times that by 60 minutes, it's just over 55,000 hours. 10,000 hours doesn't quite cut it, I guess. I'm excited to talk to Jack, though, in a few minutes here. The one thing, there's two things. Speaking of play-by-play guys, it came out today that Chris Cuthbert and Louis DeBrusque will be the broadcast duo for the Oilers games. They'll be the crew that's sent into the bubble here in Edmonton. Chris Cuthbert calling Oilers games, that is fine by me. What about you guys?
Tyler, I need to question your math.
Yeah, I was wondering too,
Why?
Jay.
So if a game is 60 minutes,
yeah.
So 60 minutes, I don't know if you know this, is also considered 1 hour.
Oh,
and if
yeah.
you take 1 hour
Oh, man.
and times that by 919 games,
I was
I don't
thinking
even think
55,000 minutes. That's my bad, guys.
I would love to know how many hours, if we even live on this earth for 55,000 hours.
I was wondering that too, and I'm super glad that you jumped in, Jay, because I'm generally bad at math.
I was so
being
proud of
nice,
myself for
and I
that
was letting
line.
you finish your Cuthbert statement there. I was going to interrupt you, but I was like, nah, I'll let him finish this, and then I'll jump in and quiz our boy.
So now the question is, do I go back and edit that, or do I let Twitter and Instagram absolutely roast me for the next probably 6 to 12 months like they're known to do?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Say
That
Yaremchuk.
going away. Yeah. Math guy, Yaremchuk.
Yeah, I was, yeah. Whew.
Man,
Man,
the funny thing is,
with confidence too.
You did, and I thought about it too, but I'm so bad at math because of your confidence in your statement. I was like, that doesn't sound right, but you know what? I'm not going to question it because I'm horrible at math.
I'd love to know.
If I already didn't know 60 minutes was 1 hour, and able to then time 1 by 919, that was my level of math knowledge that I needed to have to be able to question Yaremchuk on his crazy. You want to talk about hyperbole statement, but that none of this is to discount the effort that Jack Michaels put in and the reps that he put in to get where he is today. This is more just Yaremchuk stuck to math.
Yeah, the best part was like I delivered that whole line with so much confidence, seamlessly jumped to the next one. Then when you called me out, I quickly flipped back to my calculator and did the math again, and I was like, no, I'm right. I got that right. What the hell is Jay talking about? Yeah, I don't know how I jumped to that. Wow.
Well, that's why we're doing a podcast and not astrophysics.
Yeah. So Chris Cuthbert, guys, hey?
How many hours does he have? 2 million?
Oh, he's got millions of hours. Since the dawn of man, Chris Cuthbert has been announcing hockey games.
Oh, you know what? I'm pumped. That guy's the best.
He is.
He is the best.
I'm just looking forward I'm pumped to hear it. It just feels right.
Yeah, me too. I love Chris Cuthbert. He's one of the best that ever has done it, and I'm really looking forward to hearing him call Connor McDavid do Connor McDavid things. It's going to be fantastic. I'm looking forward to it. And frankly, having Louis doing some color as well I like Louis doing color. I like what he brings as well. So that's a good team. That's a good team out here in Edmonton.
Great team. Louis always been, he's been awesome. So we're lucky to have so they're doing every game you said, right?
Yeah, they're doing all the Edmonton games, I believe.
Oh yeah, where this is, If no Drew, I'm in.
Okay.
Poor Drew.
If I could get your quick takes on this before we get to Jack Michaels, maybe we'll touch on it a little bit later as well. But it came out that the NHL is going to be running on a 5-second delay. I think that is not a big deal at all. That is to prevent some horrendous language from probably getting through, things the NHL doesn't want the fans to hear. 5 seconds is not enough for a team to send out a tweet saying that, this player scored or whatever. 5 seconds is actually probably pretty close to the delay that they run at usual games as well. So it's not a big deal for me. You guys?
Nah, it's fine.
I'm worried it's actually might not be enough because, I know when I get heated in hockey, I'm talking for more than 5 seconds. I'll tell you that much.
Did you guys hear what Tort said when he was asked about it?
Yeah, he goes, I don't give a shit or something.
Yeah, he's just like, Torts, what do you think about the players swearing out on the ice and having that come through in a fanless building? He's just, I don't give a shit. It's the best.
Yeah.
5 seconds is fine.
Yep.
Somebody's got to be up. But I'll tell you, whoever's manning that job has got some pressure because they better be on that button real quick.
Oh, yeah. I'll never forget the time I had Laddie Schmid on the radio. And, of course, you can't swear on the radio unlike you can on this podcast. And he said something about, Patrick Kane has, the sickest hands every time he goes around you. Then he somehow went I'm like, oh, shit. And then I'm sitting there in the studio. I was facing the other way, and I was like, holy crap, he just swore, and I scrambled over. I didn't get to the button in time. We run on a 6-second delay. If you
remember Laddie Schmid on our podcast, he was a colorful character.
He was.
The swear count was probably in the 50,000.
Probably.
We filled up the jar on that one.
Yeah, oh yeah.
All right, episode 198 of the Real Life Podcast. If my math is correct, that means we've been doing this for just over 11,000 hours. We're going to bring in Jack Michaels after this quick little break. And it's not even a break. It's just a proper introduction for Jack Michaels. And honestly, this is the right way to do it.
Have a goalie fight. Bear throws the right hand. Here comes Cam Talbot and Mike Smith. They're going to go at center ice. Talbot short with the right hand. Smith, 3 clubbing right hands. Right hand Talbot. Big right-handed shot from Mike Smith. This is the Battle of Alberta we've been waiting for 3 decades.
There we go. Back on episode 198 of the Real Life Podcast. If that call doesn't put a smile on your face, then you are definitely not an Oilers fan. And if that's a fitting intro for our guest, Jack Michaels, joining the podcast. Jack, welcome to the pod. Thanks for giving us some time.
Oh, thanks, guys. Pleasure to be on. And wanted you to know it. Well, what about 4.5 months later, we're going to have a decidedly different Battle of Alberta to bring us back to reality.
Yeah, no kidding. It's going to be very different when those two teams battle it out on the 28th. You've been back down at the rink a little bit now. 4 months off. What's kind of the vibe around the team right now?
Well, I mean, it's tough to say exactly, around the team, simply because, you're not going in and chatting with them in the locker room after the way you normally would. Mm-hmm. But
we lost Jack.
Oh, we lost. Okay. I was hoping it was me.
No, I think we lost Jack. We will patiently wait like we did with Sam Gagner that time as well. Sam Gagner always came back for us, and I'm sure Jack will as well. I'm talking a little bit about the vibe around the team.
He was driving too. I wonder where Jack's going right now.
He's a busy guy. He's on the move.
Maybe he's getting a donair. I'm gonna guess he's going to get a mid-afternoon donair.
I can see that.
Embracing the culture.
Of course.
I wonder if Jack ever had a donair before he came up to Edmonton.
I hope he's had a donair.
Yeah.
It hurts my heart when we bring on a special guest and it's from Edmonton, and then we ask them what their favorite donair place is, and they say they don't really eat donairs.
And that's why you despise having me on this podcast.
Yeah, but at least you'll eat them.
Yeah.
Not even to humor me and say and we've had great guests, and the ones that said they haven't had one, that's okay. I'm okay with it. No, actually, no, I'm not okay with it. But I don't take it personally against them. It's not a strike against them. I just, in my heart of hearts, hope they just have an answer. Just say something that you saw. I drove by Queen Donair. Does that work? That works. That's good enough for me.
But Tyler, if you're in the bag and it's 2 a.m., you're gonna get a donair, right?
We've talked about this before. When I'm in the bag, it's usually I'm home by 2, and I'm going to skip the dishes like McDonald's or something greasy. I'm more of a big greasy burger guy or something like that than I'm a donair guy.
Do you know what I did last night? I was so lazy. I skipped the dishes, some McDonald's, and all I got was a large fries and two McFlurries.
Oh!
I was having myself a Sunday, gentlemen.
That's living. I had a friend's birthday party this weekend, so we all went golfing, and then hung out in their backyard. And at about 10:30, I hopped into an Uber and had to wear a mask, which I'm fine with, but it's still weird because that's my first Uber ride I've taken in a long time.
Well, I was going to ask because I haven't been on one at all. So you just have to. So that's the protocol now. Is you have to just throw a mask on.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
Yep.
So I ambitiously requested a McDonald's drive-thru stop by. I got McNuggets, a McChicken, a quarter pounder, and fries. And all I got through was the McNuggets, and then woke up to the rest in the morning.
Calories don't count after a bender, though. We all know that.
I know, so I know. Yeah, you're right, and I took full advantage of that yesterday. Should we try to loop Jack back in?
Yeah, it's ringing right now. We're trying to get Jack back in.
Okay.
All right, so this is what it's telling me. So that while we're waiting for the call to go through, Jack is not only going to get a donair, but he's going to get one off the beaten path.
He's gone to a point where there is no cell service.
That's
and
right.
he's going to crush it before he comes back on.
Because he's a professional.
Mm-hmm.
So the concern is we might have Jack in a bit of a meat coma because he came out shot out of a cannon. Like his description of the last 4.5 months about he was getting me jacked up there. Well, I guess that's a pun, isn't it?
We're looking for Jack. He's a man on a mission. He's out there. He's out there in the wilderness somewhere.
Jack's gone missing, but we're gonna find him.
Pick up where we left off. I believe that's what they call a producer's nightmare. But Jack, we were just talking about being back down at the rink. What's that kind of feel like after a 4-month layoff?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing that I've seen is just how deep this team is and how quick it is. And neither of those I was necessarily expecting, even through the start of the year. When the Oilers started 5-0 and then 7-1, it was Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid, kind of carrying the club. But as the season wore on, guys like Riley Sheahan and Josh Archibald began to find their game. Defensively, Caleb Jones and Ethan Bear gave them an unexpected boost, and then Kailer Yamamoto, really catapulted the team at New Year's. And, you bring all those guys back, plus guys like James Neal and Alex Jason have had a chance to get healthy. Particularly Neal, he was banged up, needed to get healthy, and Connor McDavid now has a full off season of training instead of rehab. And so you add all those up, and it's an Oiler club that, I think is as primed as any, but it's the great unknown. I will say this, though. I feel like Edmonton, and I would have never said this even 9 months ago, I feel like Edmonton is as well-positioned as any in a truncated playoff schedule where there's going to be a lot of games and not too many days, even though there's no travel. I think guys can very easily get banged up. And I think the Oilers are well-positioned under those circumstances to kind of withstand the war of attrition, so to speak, and be one of the teams left standing, dare I say it, as we move into late August. Something I thought I'd never say.
Love it, Jack. My next question, I feel like I know your answer to it, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Is Connor McDavid looking just as dominant as we expected, or maybe even more dominant than we've ever seen?
The last part. I mean, that's what I was telling you. He did not have his normal off season last year. He was rehabbing. Now he's been training for 4 months. A season's worth of bumps and bruises have melted away. He's fully healthy. He's rested. And lately, he's been able to train like he likes to train. These guys, as things started to open up a little bit, you got into a phase 2 situation. Now they've been able to kind of hit the ice going. And look, as I said the other day, Connor McDavid hasn't forgotten how to be Connor McDavid. And that should pose some big problems for the rest of the league.
Jack, what about for yourself? It's been a 4-month layoff for yourself. Are you doing anything to take care of your voice, or are you already ready, set to go?
I'm doing about 100,000 of these podcasts. I did a whole bunch of stuff for universities that, were closing out, online classes. So anyone, with a broadcasting program I put out on Twitter a few months ago, and actually I spent quite a bit of time doing that. A lot of people took me up on it, and it was good to kind of speak with people that reminded me how old I am and how young I once was. So, I'm ready to go. I'm going to be in a weird position, in all likelihood, probably calling games off a monitor myself, even though it's in our city. And so, that's going to be a challenge in and of itself. And, So I'll figure it out. I got an exhibition game to do that should have an interesting storyline with Edmonton and Calgary, and we'll go from there.
Jack, you mentioned having to call the games off a monitor. Like we heard you off the top there. When you get fired up, it is the best thing to hear as an Oilers fan. For you, calling it off a monitor, is it frustrating to have that during the playoffs for you to not be able to be in the building?
Well, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a major disappointment. But on the other hand, it's a major disappointment that we're in this situation, that we're not going to have 18,640 people in there. Look, part of the reason that, people remember Edmonton's playoff runs, whether it be 2017, 2006, or going back to the 80s, is the atmosphere in the city and the fans in the building. They're the reason that, the Oilers proved unbeatable in the mid-'80s at home. And they're the reason that I didn't even bother, talking the last few seconds of Game 6 against Anaheim in 2017. They create the atmosphere. Ask Paul Lorio, the late, great Paul Lorio. His anthem, Turning It Over to the Fans, is a product of our city, that environment, and our supporters. So it's not going to be the same. And, look, I'm happy for the city. It's a great showcase for a city I've really, not only come to call home, but I feel pretty strongly that it's as good a market as there is in the National Hockey League. But I'm a little sad that our fans can't experience it as I know they don't like to. So this is, the best alternative. For me, I'm calling a hockey game, and I'm going to have to find a way to reach a championship level. It's just that simple. I've never done it before, but I'll figure it out.
I feel confident in that. In the last every answer that you have provided in this interview so far, you've given me chills. So I think you're in mid-season form here. So looking forward to listening to your voice, getting me amped up and running through every wall I see during the summer. You are a guy who's put in the work, my friend, and I would love to just hear a little bit. And I know we only have so much time, but a little bit about the come up. What things we do when we bring on guests onto the podcast. They love when we ask about the come up. What's the synopsis? Like, if you had to give us like the short answer of what it was to get to where you are today, and now the success you're seeing. Like, if there's any kind of cold notes you can provide to us to kind of inform the audience.
Well, first of all, if you've ever met me, you know that short answers are not my forte. And in this case in particular, there is no short answer because it wasn't a short ride. I wasn't talented enough to, get a National Hockey League job at 25. I didn't have that kind of talent. I grinded away in the minor leagues a lot like, a guy like Matt Hendricks did. I put in a lot of work, and first of all, I crawled back to my hometown after college and did high school hockey and high school football and high school basketball, small college baseball. Whatever I could do, to get on the air, get experience, and get better, I did. And, I got my first minor league job at 24 out in Colorado Springs in a league that you've never heard of. It was only around a grand total of 8 years. The West Coast Hockey League. I worked for a team called the Colorado Gold Kings. In their illustrious 4-year history, they had 2 announcers, and they both called games for Canadian teams in the National Hockey League. Paul Edmonds of the Winnipeg Jets, who lasted 1 year, and then I came in and did the last 3. And from there, my team folded up shop in August, and I wound up, making a decision. Do I go, to the Great White North and Anchorage, Alaska, or do I take my chances down south? Well, I'm from the northeastern United States, and us Yankees aren't too fond of the South. So I decided to take my chances up in Alaska, and it proved to be the best decision I ever could manage. So it was fantastic, and I was very lucky.
You were up.
Jack, you did 900. You did 919 games in the minors before getting the call.
Don't remind me. Don't remind me. I remember every one of them.
Well, that's kind of what my question is. Was there a moment for you where you kind of thought maybe this wasn't going to happen? I guess to rephrase it,
there were 918 of those moments. There were 918 of those moments, bud. I mean, look.
What pushed you forward?
Well, I mean, you just are chasing, right? You're just chasing, and you're hoping that it all comes out on the wash. I mean, I had no other alternative. I had bet on myself and decided I'm just going to ride this out until my wife tells me enough's enough, or I die trying. I mean, that's honestly what it was. I mean, I really can't tell you, especially in Alaska. I had a pretty good setup. I was selling sponsorships. I was making really good money. And, there was no American Hockey League option for me. I couldn't afford the pay cut. So it was NHL or bust. And I just, I mean, a little bit of fortune. But, it's a phrase I use on the broadcast every once in a while, to get into the playoffs, to have a chance to compete for the Stanley Cup. At some point during the regular season, I always say, you got to put yourself into position to get into position. And that's what I did in my own career. I put myself in position to, eventually enough people retired, moved on. I don't know, decided to grow weed. I don't know what they did, but I was the last. I was the last one standing. And I'm very fortunate that the Oilers took a chance on me, and I'm probably fortunate that the Oilers had never hired for the position before, because they were willing to take a look at anybody and everybody. They'd never hired. Rod Phillips kind of volunteered in the summer of 1972, and, he stayed in that position for 38 years. So because they had no experience, they had no, preconceived ideas about who they wanted, or where that person was going to be from. And who knows, maybe they said, Alaska, we got to meet this guy. And, that might have worked to my advantage.
So, Jack, take us through the moments you found out you were going to be the voice of the Edmonton Oilers. I mean, what was that like? What was going through your head?
Well, I'll tell you what was going through my body, my time. I actually was on a vacation with my family in Hawaii. And, I had interviewed for the job some 2 or 3 weeks before, and, hadn't heard back. And, even though I felt like it went well, I hadn't heard anything. So I was thinking, well, this is another of my many failures. And, we got on the plane, and I had sent an email, hey, to whoever was the point man. I said, hey, I'm going to be in Hawaii. Here's my cell phone number. I know you have it. One of those emails you send, you make up some excuse to reestablish contact, and it's, a pathetic, lame, reaching for the stars kind of thing. Like, hey, please answer me. Well, they didn't answer me. So, later that day, I hopped on a flight and, went to Hawaii with my family. And I still remember my wife, halfway through the 5-hour flight, looking at my dog face on the plane and saying, hey, you better pick it up. Like, we're in Hawaii for 10 days. Like, I don't want you pouting the whole time. And she was right. And, we got there, and I, went to sleep, woke up the next day, and, decided she's right. Let's go have fun. Went down to the pool, ordered up a round of Mai Tais. It's a Saturday morning, and I get a call from Edmonton. And for some reason, I don't know why, I should have thought it was a rejection call. But I was like, Saturday morning, that'd be a weird time. As I picked up the phone, I just had a weird feeling. And sure enough, the guy who picked up was a guy by the name of Alan Watt, who worked for the Oilers and the Eskimos for years and years. Good friend of mine. And he goes, hold on, I got to get a few other people on the phone. I said, well, this must be good news, because if you're getting a few other people on the phone to tell me I've come up short again, you are really a sadist. So I was, so needless to say, he goes, "You ready to come to Edmonton?" I said, "I'm ready to come to Edmonton, but first, can we get off this call so I can buy a round of drinks for everyone at the pool?" So that's, he said, "Hey, have a great time in Hawaii. Congratulations, and we'll see you in 10 days." So that was a hell of a way to start my vacation, and I'll never forget it.
Wow.
No kidding. I mean, like that's probably the best start to a vacation ever. What about when you finally got to Edmonton, you're sitting in the booth and it's time to call your first Oilers game? Was it like, were you a bundle of nerves at that point? Were you excited? What was running through your mind?
I mean, I'd be lying to you if I didn't have some, like, I don't know, jitters or excitement. I mean, obviously I was amped up, but that's where the 900 plus games come in. I mean, the one thing about doing it for so many years in the minors is you finally get to the National Hockey League. God, I think you'd be ready, right? So maybe I was nervous, but I didn't feel that nervous. I just felt like, you know what, this is what you worked your whole life for. You're ready. And I don't mean to sound arrogant. It's just, again, it's not like this was new to me. I mean, I'd been banging away for a long time. I was excited to do it at the highest level, and 10 years later, I'm going to have that same kind of sense of excitement when we come back. I'm always a little bit of a, I don't know whether bundle of nerves is the right, but I'm always amped up when it's, the first game after a long layoff, whether it's the first game of the season or in this case, first game of the postseason.
I feel like you're amped up right now because you've got me amped up. You've got 10 years of NHL under your belt, and you have, well, especially this year, some cool shit's happened that you got to call. But in your 10 years in the NHL so far, what has been your favorite call to date? What sticks out?
Well, I mean, again, it goes back to the fans. It goes back to the most meaningful games you call, and that would be, Desharnais scoring the Game 5 goal in the first round against San Jose. I mean, that overtime was probably going to decide the series. I mean, let's be honest. I think going back to San Jose down 3-2, even if you win Game 6, it's still a flip of the coin in Game 7. That was going to decide the series, I felt like, and Edmonton got it done. And just the way the crowd exploded. I remember coming out of the arena after Game 5, and it's that's the great thing about playoff hockey in Edmonton is it's still light out when you come out of the arena. People are in the streets and just getting after it. It was a lot of fun. I mean, it was just. And that's what'll be a little bit lacking in this particular scenario. I won't have that arena feel. I won't have the, 18,000 people to keep me going. But I am glad at least there's some sort of alternative. But there's, nothing will replace that. I mean, that was just a great feeling, both the actual goal by David Desharnais, as it turned out, his last in an Oiler uniform, and just, again, how pumped the people were and how active the streets were. That was a fun night.
Jack, you mentioned that 2017 run there and how much fun it is around the city. You had to wait. I mean, we all lived through the decade of darkness as well, but you had to wait 7 years to finally call Oilers playoff hockey. Do you think the weight of that made it almost that much sweeter for both you and for the city, and that's that contributed to everything being so fired up?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, Alaska, yeah, I mean, second round, I think my years in Alaska after my first year, I think it was second round in 04, and then a run in 05, a championship in 06, a conference final in 07, second round in 08, a championship final in 09, Game 7, so there was a lot, there were a lot of playoff games there. You get spoiled, and I know it's the minors, but you certainly don't think you're going to have to wait 7 years. So absolutely. I mean, there's nothing like playoff hockey in Edmonton. I was told that going into that particular postseason by by the people who remembered '06 so vividly, and their descriptions were 100% accurate, and their buildup did not disappoint.
For me, Jack,
sorry. Go ahead, Big Mel.
I was just gonna say, for me, it's almost hard to believe it's already been 10 years that you've been calling Oilers games. Does it fly by for you, or do you take moments to just kind of enjoy the ride, especially after such a grind in the minors?
Well, it does fly by. I mean, I've got a 13-year-old to the right of me who was 3 years old when we moved here. I mean, I have my kids to keep me grounded in terms of, wow, this has flown by. I mean, my 16-year-old daughter just got her driver's license the other day. A warning to all you Edmontonians. So, I mean, when I moved here, I had a 6-year-old and a 3.5-year-old, and now, I've got a driver and someone else who's going into high school next year. So it's hard to believe for me, but my kids, this is all they know. And like I said, Edmonton has a way of making you feel at home fairly early on in your tenure. And I've always been a guy. I mean, obviously, I gave you a brief description there: Colorado Springs, Alaska, and Edmonton. I'm not afraid to live in different places. I believe home is what you make of it, and I'm just glad the last 10 years this place has been my home.
Jack, I was looking on your website there, a bunch of interesting pictures. You got one of you with Wayne Gretzky, but also one of you with Steven Tyler. I think I want to know the story behind that photo.
He was dating a girl in Anchorage, and I think he might still be dating her. But he was dating an Anchorage gal, and obviously when he was coming to town, and he's from Boston, I think he wanted to check out an Aces game, and as you can imagine, between our ownership group and our PA announcer, I mean, everyone was kind of dive bombing to get a piece of this guy, and I said, hey, if you want a break from everyone like leeching onto you, you want to call a period with me in the second period. I don't let anyone up in my, area there. You could just hang out for an hour and not have to deal with all this. And he said, I might take you up on that. And sure enough, in the second period, he showed up, just put a headset on, and we called the whole second period of that night's game together and had a drink after the game. It's, Alaska was a special place too. It was, Alaska, actually, I was sitting there one time having dinner at a seafood restaurant, and nice looking couple pulls up next to us. My wife and I are sitting there, and I'm sorry, honey, but I'm going to have one opportunity to say hello to Elle McPherson. I'm going to take it. And, Elle McPherson plopped down. I think they were filming, if not the Edge itself, some sort of follow-up to the Edge that never panned out. Remember that movie with her and Anthony Hopkins?
Yeah.
Alec Baldwin, the bear? Remember that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a sequel that never ended up getting made, but she was in town for a while. So, anyways, I've got tons of stories like that. You'd be surprised. Not too long ago, I was at the award show in Vegas and ran into Floyd Mayweather. A guy, 6'8", 260-pound dude, goes, "Hey Jack, what are you doing?" And it was some guy from Toronto who's a huge Oiler fan. And I said, "Holy cow, what are you doing? I thought I did something wrong." And he goes, "Oh, I'm just sitting outside. Look who's shopping." And it was him and about 4 other bodyguards waiting on Floyd Mayweather shopping in Vegas. So trust me, the hockey world opens more doors than you can imagine.
It's like the hockey world takes care of each other, I think, and I think that kind of proved it in spades right there. Elle McPherson, I still to this day have a giant crush on her. I'm very envious of you.
Unquestionably.
The body.
I think my wife had a bit of a crush on her too.
Well, as she should. Like we all should.
Yeah.
If your eyes work, you should have a crush on Elle McPherson.
Yes. I didn't know what it was like to be around the beautiful people until that particular night. But yeah, no, it's look. I've had a great time. I had a great time in the minors, and I'm sure you can understand that I'm totally tongue in cheek. I mean, I'm not sure I'd trade any of those years. Because again, when you get here in a city that knows its hockey and knows whether you're going to be genuine or whether you're trying to be something you're not, I think those years in Alaska were instrumental in kind of not only molding me as a broadcaster, but in molding me as a person. There's a lot of similarities between the two cities, beyond just the oil industry and the tourism industry. They're cities that are a lot alike in the sense that if you want to complain about the weather or how far we are from other metropolitan areas, I can give you directions to the airport real quickly. And I like that kind of civic, fierce pride. I get a kick out of that. I think it's important as a city to have that. And I think it's one of many reasons why Edmonton is the best Canadian city, because they have it and not a lot of the other cities don't, in my experience.
Well, Jack, you talk about being genuine and things like that, and knowing your hockey, being knowledgeable and genuine. I think that's part of the reason why this city and why the fan base has just come to love you so much, because you almost do kind of embody Oilers fans. We hear you yelling after the Josh Archibald goal the way that you were after that OT winner against Carolina. And for 90% of Oilers fans, they're going, that's exactly how I'm yelling after Josh Archibald scores an overtime winner. So I think that genuine aspect of your call is really why the fan base has really loves you the way they do.
You just asked my kids. That's not yelling. That's just how I speak. They are battle tested. They know that I only know one volume, very loud, and they just have to grin and bear it, and I suppose our listening audience has to as well.
Before we wrap things up here, I'll send it over to Jay here. Jay, I'll let you get in your final question or two.
Yeah, sorry. So I'm going to start with a statement, and then I got a question for you. I need your opinion on what you think is going to happen here. First of all, thank you for being a fantastic advocate for Edmonton and ambassador. We had a group of Germans here it came in mid-March, early March.
Yeah, I said hello to them before a game.
Yeah, you took the time and you chatted to all of them and you just blew all their minds because they listen to you. They stream your voice in Germany, and they put you on a pedestal. So the fact you took the time to spend with them was super awesome, but also shows kind of what being an Edmontonian is. We were open to bringing new people in, so thank you for that. But going into the playoffs, who's our Fernando? Who do you think is our Fernando Pisani for this playoff, and why?
That's a very good boy. That's a really good question. I gotta go with Josh Archibald. That if you had to, in other words, think about last playoff run. I think Mark Letestu was the second leading scorer on the Oilers. I think he had more points than Connor McDavid. If you look that up, I'm pretty sure he did. And I feel like Josh Archibald. He doesn't play center, obviously. He's a lot quicker than Mark Letestu, but he's a penalty killer. You're going to see him in pretty much all situations except on the power play. And as you saw in the 3-on-3 OT, when Dave Tippett needed him, he was there. He skates exceptionally well, and he has a knack for being in the right spot. I feel like if you're looking for an unsung hero that could all of a sudden go full Claude Lemieux or something like that, Josh Archibald would be my pick.
Bag Milk, you got a last one?
Yeah, I got a last question. Jack, my favorite call that you've done was fairly recent, actually. It was Connor and Leon in overtime against Washington. They're on a 2-on-1. They're unstoppable. Leon to Connor, Connor back to Leon in the net. You go bananas. I went bananas in my house. My question out of this is is there a broadcaster or announcer when you were growing up, when you were young, that kind of formed your opinion of what a play-by-play guy should be as you tried to find your own voice to where you are now?
Mike Lang, Pittsburgh. Mike Lang, no doubt about it. And it's a shame. Canadians mostly know Mike Lang as the guy who, says Michael motorcycle and beat him like a rented mule and upstairs where mom keeps the peanut butter and all that crap. But he is one hell of a play-by-play announcer. I mean, I just remember listening to him rattle off, 9 or 10 minutes. We all, have seen the highlights, and we all remember, the 80s style, 8-9 minutes of, just continuous action. There weren't a lot of whistles. Obviously not near the type of game we have today. They let pretty much everything fly, especially in the playoffs. And I was always amazed by the fact that he could rattle off 9-10 minutes of uninterrupted play-by-play with great scoring chances and wonderful saves without so much as a stumble. He mastered the language, and that was always my goal. And luckily, my dad was an English professor, and my mom was exceptionally smart. So I always had parents who, as annoying as I found it at the time, who corrected my grammar and who corrected my subject-verb conjugation and all that stuff. It's paid off in my chosen profession. And, Mike Lang, I'll tell you what, again, he's not super popular north of the border. If anyone knows him, they know him for those little things I was talking about. But he'll always be the guy that got me thinking, along with my own lack of athletic ability, that broadcasting might be the way to go.
Jack, as the producer of this podcast, I thank you for sticking through the technical difficulties with me. As the host, I thank you for giving us some great answers and giving us a lot of your time. Really appreciate it. Look forward to hearing you in the playoffs.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Jack.
There we go. That's Jack Michaels, Oilers play-by-play voice. Doing it on the phone was a little bit different, so I apologize to the listeners if we were sort of stumbling over each other. But I'll start with you, Bagged Milk. That's a guy who can get you fired up pretty easily, hey?
You know what? Even just listening to him give us answers about his come up, He's got that voice. He's got the
He could
voice.
read the phone book. He could read the phone book.
That's exactly it. It's just, I'm fired up just listening. He could literally, like Jay just said, read the phone book or a recipe on making banana bread, and I would be fired up to listen to it. He's just got the voice. Over the last 10 years, it's been a mainstay in all of our lives for, 6 months at a time every year. Hopefully longer now these days. But yeah, he was great. I really loved hearing his story of resilience and the hard work and the grinding that it took to get to the NHL. This wasn't a guy that was given anything. This was a guy that ground out 919 minor league games before getting the call, and you could hear about it. I love hearing people put in that much work into a goal and having it pay off the way he did.
He said the magic words, I bet on myself.
Yeah, he really did. He did bet on himself, and I was actually going to ask him if he could do some 10,000 hours math on that one, because he really did bet on himself, and it was one of those things that was inspiring to hear him talk about, where he didn't have a backup plan. It was this. This was it, and this is what he wanted to do, and he kept at it until he got it.
Yeah, and he stuck through it as I tried to figure out. I'm going to splice it together, so hopefully the listener doesn't think there was any technical issues. But man, that was tough, and doing it over the phone was a little bit difficult. But man, he's a patient guy. He's a guy who loves the Oilers, loves Oilers fans, and it came through in his answers there. Yeah, that was a ton of fun. Well, talking about what the fan base means to the playoffs in this city, like, I'm glad he got to see it in 2017, because this city is a greater place when the Oilers are in the playoffs. And he was 1,000% right. And I was happy to hear him. It's fun to hear from the other side of a broadcast that they know it too. It's not just like we're a fan in the stands and we're going, holy shit, this is crazy. Like, they know it too, and I just love that. He genuinely seems to love this city. He mentioned that Desharnais OT winner, and when you listen to it on his website, you literally can barely hear Jack at all. Like, the crowd was bananas in that game. But yeah, his passion it's second to none.
Oh yeah, like I said, he was just having a conversation with us there, and it's just like how he. his voice, but just the energy with which he speaks with. Just like I said, there was like multiple times just his answers were giving me chills because they're being like like I said earlier, how his energy just exudes out of his like voice and through the speakers of right now in my car where I'm sitting to hear this, like it just hits you right in the field.
Oh, he projects. He's the guy. If you're having a backyard barbecue, he won't need no PA system to talk to you.
Oh no.
Before we share a few more thoughts here and wrap up the podcast, need to give some love once again to our friends at Japa who they make every episode possible, whether we have a great guest or not. Big shout out to Japa. Check them out, japamachinery.com. They got a few things going on this month, as they always do, including those 815s, which are still sitting there up on their Instagram. If you want to go check it out, 2Cat 815 compactors. Look at it if you need one. If you need anything, 815s, packers, asphalt rollers, excavators, and more, all available at Japa Machinery. At Oodle Noodle, 10% of all in-store proceeds go to a local charity every week. Jay, do you have a running tally on how much has been raised so far through Oodle Noodle?
Not officially. Well, actually, no, we do. I have to check the spreadsheet, but it's somewhere north of $40,000
awesome
to date, which is just crazy.
Awesome.
So yeah, no, it's worked out really well. We've been able to help out some charities in need. This week we partnered with the Jerry Forbes Center for Volunteerism. For Spirit and Volunteerism. It's a mouthful, but very interesting facility. So it's 93,000 square feet. It houses like 20 other charities in it. So it's a charity to help support charities by basically removing like overhead expenses like rent. So very interesting facility we got to tour, and they're doing great things. So that's who we're partnered with this week. So yeah, I just, we see these numbers and we see the support that's being generated and being injected into the community. And it's, like Jack Michaels' voice gives me chills. So super cool to see.
And I saw on your Instagram today, location 14. We're close.
We're close. So we're trying to get an inspection moved up that's booked. We're one inspection away. And Hamptons will be open. So right now it's slated for July 30th, but everything in the store is ready now. So if we can get it this week, we could be doing a soft opening this week. But worst case, July 30th, Hamptons, Deep West End, Edmonton, we're coming for you.
It's ready just in time for the playoffs, and so should the limited edition Nation Beer playoff cans, correct?
Correct. So they're canned. Labels just haven't been labeled yet. So labels are arriving like today or tomorrow. So in the next day or two, there's going to be a video of the canning being done, the labeling being done, I should say. And then that beer will be shipped down to Edmonton and available in Liquor Connect later this week.
Jay, as a betting man, have you gotten around to putting any money on the Oilers versus Hawks series?
Yeah. So I've got. Well, let's go back to my Oilers betting prowess, shall we not? Me and Nooksy Brown, one of our favorite Australians, got together on a Windicate and put $400 down on the Oilers to make the playoffs at 3.75 to 1.
Unreal odds. So we cashed in on that. So now we're taking some of the house money and we got 200 on the Oilers to win the cup at 22 or 24 to 1. And we've got 200 on the series right now. And then I think we're just going to roll the series up in terms of just keep as we win, just keep doubling down on the next series. So bets are in. I'm trying to find some other fun little bets to do in the meantime. Maybe Yaremchuk, that's where you're good at. You're good at finding some, more non-traditional types of bets. Yeah.
But, I might get involved with just to keep things more spicy on an in-game experience. But we're in, and just hearing Jack talk, I can just feel it. Yeah. That is what's so interesting about this. I don't know what it is, and maybe it's because hockey's been taken away from us for 4 months, and now it's back, and it's in August, and there's all this magic around it. But like, I'm watching these player interviews, and I'm reading the content that's being put out, and I just feel like this is going to be a pretty good playoff run. Like I just see it. Do you guys not?
I mean, I completely get it. And there was no greater example than I just posted on Saturday morning. I posted a stupid little article at OilersNation.com called Oilers Mean Business with Their Playoff Hair.
Yeah.
And the amount of passion from Nation citizens and other people, it was on Reddit, it was on Facebook, it was all over the place. People discussing Nuge's mustache, Riley Sheahan's beard, Jujhar Khaira looks great. Everybody's ready to go. Yamamoto's got hair flowing out like the mane of a lion. It's just everybody is all in on this, and it's fun to watch both the fans of the team and the players excited to get going. And it's adding almost like a different flavor of excitement that wouldn't otherwise be possible, if that makes sense.
But just how they're talking. I don't know what it is. You're hearing that they're pushing the pace, the pace of practice is being pushed to the roof, and it's being led by Leon and Connor, which is fantastic to hear from a leadership thing. And when if you practice hard, that and you practice with a game pace in practice, that does produce results. So that's good to hear. But then you just I'm watching Sheehan's interview yesterday, and I'm just oh my, just how they're fucking talking. This just seems, this team honestly feels like a unit. I just, that's all I'm hearing and feeling when these guys are talking. And it seems like these guys are on a unit. Everyone knows their job, and they're coming to they've got a mission. And I don't want to make grandiose statements, but I just feel if that is the attitude that's being taken into this, we're gonna see some success as a result. So how far, I don't know. I'm willing to bet on the whole fucking thing, but I would regardless. It's just I'm tickling inside. I've got the tickle. So I don't know. These playoffs can't start soon enough because I just feel like it's gonna be fucking unreal for Oilers fans.
I agree, and I'm trying to find the quote, but I can't find it before we wrap here. But one of the Oilers players, and I wish I knew which one, was quoted as saying that he thinks Connor is somehow faster, and that honestly made me laugh out loud over the weekend. That this 4-month hiatus, and Jack talked about it too, was Connor went full off-season mode training for this, and now everybody better get the hell out of his way.
I think Sheehan said, I think he gained a step.
Which is absurd.
And then, you're right. He's now actually got, he didn't rehab the last 6 months. He was playing NHL hockey and then actually had a 4-month off season to properly train. Last thing you want if you're the rest of the NHL is to have Connor 4 unencumbered months to just train to get better. Fuck, I think we're weaponized. And now all of a sudden, it's so weird, right? Now, the vernacular is just changed in terms of, how the media looks at us. So, oh, we've got depth. We've got depth everywhere now. We're you go 14 months ago or this same time last year, and all the outside media is saying we've got nothing. It's funny how it changes.
Credit to Uncle Ken on that too, though, right? Because, he's the guy who went out and got that depth. Sheahan, Archibald, acquiring Ennis, getting Athanasiou, making the Lucic for Neal trade, extending Alex Chason. All of those guys, Ken Holland pretty much rebuilt this forward group in 12 to 14 months.
Happy anniversary on the Lucic for Neal trade yesterday, by the way.
Yep.
Oh, great day. I hope everyone had a drink and celebrated that fleecing.
It's a prominent part of our intro on the pod, and damn right it is, because that's one of the best moments to be an Oilers fan in the last 3 years.
Yeah, you just felt something special happened, which it's been a while since that happened. But yeah, you're right. Uncle Ken has systematically rebuilt us. And the wild card here is if Athanasiou can actually, establish some comfort and some consistency here, that's another weapon. He's a weapon.
Well, he's got a great chance to do it too, playing up with Draisaitl and Yamamoto. I don't know if there's a better opportunity for him to start off this playoff than where he's at right now.
Yeah. That's a great point too.
Yeah.
Because personally, frankly, I wish that Tippett would have kept Nuge with Draisaitl and Yamamoto.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, Connor needs some love too, along with Cassian. So it makes sense to put Nuge there. And I'm really hoping that those combos work. Otherwise, Nuge is going right back with the other two.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. And we got 2 more episodes here before the season really gets going next Monday, next Thursday. Like next Thursday after we watch the exhibition game. Oh man. My excitement's probably going to be at a level I can't even fathom right now, because I feel like once I get a chance to sit down and watch a game on TV, even though it'll be exhibition and it might not be as, intense as, or obviously won't be as intense as even a regular season game, just watching the guys out there again, I think is going to put me on another level.
Yeah, well, it's just one more step to like this being a reality, right? Like I'm still like, I know like we're going through the motions now, like, but for some reason I'm still like cautiously optimistic. But like you're right, the minute like we actually are in front of our television watching a hockey game, that's when it'll really kind of set in, and just like then like full playoff mode will kind of engage in internally for us.
I'll be as excited for that as I would be having dinner right beside Al McPherson.
That was a hell of a story too. Jack Michaels was a beauty. I wish honestly, another one of those guests, and it was the same thing with Gene Principe Friday on Oilers Nation Radio. If you haven't listened to that, go check it out. Jack's one of those guys where if the technology was working and we could have gone an hour with him, we would have had no problem going an hour with Jack Michaels.
We got to try and get him back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Easily.
Maybe after the playoffs, we'll bring Jack back for a follow-up on his pandemic play-by-play. Jay, Bag Milk, thanks for sticking through the technological glitches. Enjoy your week. I'll talk to you again in 7 days.
Get your 10,000 hours in, people.
Peace.
Or 50,000.
Yeah, just get your math in. Episode 198, I think, of the Real Life Podcast is over.
Great job on making it through the entire hour of the Real Life Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast from.